Lyra's heart pounded as she walked through the grand gates of her family estate. The walls shimmered with alien energy, and the sky above reflected soft violet and gold hues. Today was no ordinary day. She clutched the arm of the man beside her, Jack, the human she had met only months ago. He looked out of place, towering in his rugged clothes, eyes wide at the splendor around him. Every step he took was cautious yet curious, as if he wanted to touch everything at once. "Are you ready for this?" Lyra whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and excitement. Jack nodded slowly. "I think so. But, remind me again why we're doing this." "Because my family needs to know the truth," Lyra said firmly. "And because I want them to meet you as the father of my child." Jack swallowed hard. The word still sounded strange in his mouth. Father of your child. It was real now. There was no going back. The large doors of the palace opened silently as they approached. Lyra's family waited inside, a mixture of astonishment and curiosity painted on every face. Her mother, a tall and graceful alien, stepped forward. Her golden skin shimmered under the glowing lights, and her eyes, a deep shade of emerald, focused on Lyra with concern. "Lyra, what is the meaning of this?" her mother asked softly, yet there was steel in her voice. Taking a deep breath, Lyra squared her shoulders. "Mother, I am pregnant, and this is Jack. He is the father." A stunned silence filled the room. The council of her family, uncles, aunts, and older siblings, gaped at the pair. Jack shifted uncomfortably under the alien stares, feeling their quiet judgment like heat on his skin. He tried to smile politely, but it came off as awkward and human. "You brought a human into our home?" Lyra's elder brother Talon finally asked, his voice a mixture of shock and disbelief. His eyes studied Jack from head to toe as if trying to read his worth in an instant. "Yes," Lyra said firmly. "He is more than what you see. He saved my life, and I trust him completely." Jack's eyebrows rose. He didn't fully understand all the customs of this alien world, but he could feel the weight of their scrutiny. He wanted to speak, to explain himself, but the words felt inadequate. Instead, he gave a small nod, letting Lyra speak for him. "Humans are rare here," Talon said slowly, choosing his words carefully. "And relationships with them are unusual. How can you be sure this is right?" Lyra's voice was steady. "I know him. I know his heart. I know his courage, and now I know he will be a great father." Her mother stepped closer, her expression unreadable. She looked at Jack directly, studying him as if trying to see his very soul. Jack gulped but held her gaze. There was something about her presence that felt both intimidating and fair. "You claim bravery," she said softly. "But what proof do we have that you are more than a savage?" Jack straightened. He wasn't used to being called a savage, but he understood what she meant. To these aliens, humans were unpredictable, chaotic, and primitive in many ways. And maybe he was, but he also knew humans had something else: adaptability, courage, and determination. "I can show you," Jack said, his voice calm but firm. "I can fix things, solve problems, protect those who need it. I may not have your technology, but I know how to survive, how to think fast, and how to act when it matters most." Lyra's mother raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "We shall see," she said. "Actions speak louder than words." Talon muttered something under his breath, clearly not convinced. The council murmured among themselves, whispering in a language Jack didn't understand. He felt like an outsider in a palace filled with elegance and authority. But instead of shrinking, he reminded himself of why he was here. He was here for Lyra, for the child, for the future. Lyra took his hand, giving it a reassuring squeeze. "They will test you," she said quietly. "But I know you can do it. Just be yourself," Jack nodded. "Being myself sometimes gets me in trouble," Lyra smiled. "Then maybe it will get them to see your strength too." The council moved to the main chamber, a vast hall with crystal walls reflecting the lights in endless patterns. Jack's eyes followed every detail: the hovering platforms, the strange machinery embedded in the walls, and the alien attendants moving silently like shadows. He felt small but also alive. Every instinct in him urged him to observe, adapt, and understand. Humans were made for this, surviving in the unknown. "First," Lyra's mother announced, "we shall see your skills." Jack blinked. Skills? He had thought the test would be about courage or honor, but now it seemed practical. He glanced at the devices around the room. Some looked broken, some dormant, and some clearly dangerous. "I can start here," Jack said, stepping toward a small alien console that was sparking and hissing. Lyra's mother watched closely as he knelt down, examining it carefully. Using a mix of logic, human intuition, and a few improvisations, he managed to stabilize the console. Sparks stopped and a soft hum replaced the harsh noises. A few council members whispered among themselves. Lyra's mother gave a small nod. "Interesting," she said. Jack didn't stop. He moved to another device, fixing it with his hands and simple tools he had brought from his world. The council's skepticism slowly shifted into curiosity. Lyra's father, usually stern and commanding, leaned forward, watching intently. Lyra's siblings began to murmur. "He is clever," Talon said reluctantly. His voice had the hint of surprise that no one could hide. Jack wiped his hands and gave a small, awkward smile. "I'm not used to your machines," he said. "But I know how to figure things out." Lyra felt a surge of pride. This was why she had chosen him. Not because he was perfect, but because he could face challenges head-on. Humans were resilient. They thrived where others failed. After the demonstrations, Lyra led Jack to a balcony overlooking the gardens. Alien flora shimmered under the violet sky, and soft music floated in the air from unseen instruments. She looked at him with affection. "You did well," she said. "They are impressed, even if they don't show it." Jack scratched the back of his head. "Impressed. Or maybe confused. Either way, I think I survived their first test." She laughed softly. "This is only the beginning. There will be more tests, but I believe in you. I believe in us." Jack looked out at the alien city, then back at Lyra. He realized how far he had come, from a small human settlement to the heart of a powerful alien family. The journey ahead would be difficult, yes, but he was ready. Humans could adapt, survive, and inspire, even here among the stars. As night fell, the city lights reflected in Jack's eyes, and Lyra felt hope. Their future was uncertain, but it was theirs to build, and together they would face whatever challenges came next. End of Part 1. The next morning, the palace was alive with quiet tension. Lyra's family had spent the night debating Jack's presence. Some were skeptical, others curious, but all were watching closely to see how this human would prove himself. Jack sat at the breakfast table, nervously picking at the strange alien food. The textures were unusual, the flavors strong, and he kept glancing at Lyra. She noticed his unease and reached over to squeeze his hand. "Don't worry," she whispered. "Today is another chance to show them who you are. Just be yourself." Jack nodded, though being himself felt strange here. He was used to solving problems with whatever was at hand, improvising, thinking fast, taking risks, but he had never been tested by an entire alien family, let alone one that considered humans primitive. "Jack," Lyra's mother said, her voice calm but firm, "if you wish to earn our respect, you must demonstrate that you are not merely a savage. We shall set challenges to test your skills." Jack blinked. Challenges? He had faced dangers in mines, jungles, and battlefields, but a formal test by aliens was something entirely new. Still, he squared his shoulders. Humans survived in impossible situations. They adapted. They thrived. He could do this. The first challenge was mechanical. Lyra's father led Jack to a hovering craft that had been damaged in a recent storm. The ship's controls flickered, and one of its energy cores was cracked. To an untrained eye, it was hopeless. To Jack, it was a puzzle. "I can fix it," he said confidently. "I just need a few tools." Lyra's father raised an eyebrow. "You have only what you carry?" "Yes," Jack replied. He pulled a small toolkit from his bag. Tools simple by alien standards, mostly human-made but carefully chosen. He examined the energy core, then studied the controls. Slowly, methodically, he began his work. The aliens watched silently. Some whispered among themselves, clearly doubting that a human could succeed. Jack ignored them. His hands worked fast, reconnecting circuits, improvising where the alien technology didn't match his tools. Sparks flew, but he was calm, focused. After several tense minutes, the ship hummed to life. The energy core stabilized, and the controls responded perfectly. Jack stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead, and gave a small, awkward smile. Lyra's siblings gasped. "Did he just fix it?" one whispered. Lyra's mother's eyes widened slightly. "Indeed," she said softly. "Humans are resourceful." The next test was agility. Lyra led Jack to a zero-gravity training chamber, where participants had to navigate a maze suspended in midair. Alien athletes could float, twist, and glide effortlessly. Their bodies naturally adapted to the environment. Jack, in contrast, had never experienced zero gravity before. "Be careful," Lyra said. "It is easy to get hurt if you misjudge your momentum." Jack nodded and entered the chamber. At first he flailed, bumping into walls and floating unconscious, but he remembered how humans. The days after Jack's first tests brought a strange calm to the palace. Lyra's parents treated him with cautious respect now, though suspicion still lingered in their eyes. Some siblings began to grow curious about him, even asking questions about Earth and human life. Jack answered with honesty and humor, surprising them with simple yet clever stories of survival, ingenuity, and the strange beauty of his homeworld. But not everyone was warming to him. In the great dining hall one evening, Lyra's uncle, Lord Veyron, arrived with a heavy air of disapproval. He was a stern man, tall and sharp-eyed, his voice carrying the weight of authority. Sitting at the long table, he studied Jack silently, his face expressionless until the meal ended. Finally, he spoke. "So this is the human who has turned my niece against tradition." His words were calm but carried a bite. Jack froze, unsure how to answer. Lyra placed her hand over his. "Uncle, I am not against tradition. I am choosing love over arrangement. Jack has already proven his worth." Veyron's lip curled slightly. "Worth? A few tricks with machines and simulations? Do you believe that qualifies him to stand among us, Lyra? He is not of our people. He cannot carry the weight of our name." Her elder cousin, Saren, nodded in agreement. "You belong with one of our own kind, Lyra. Someone who can give you stability, strength, and honor. Not a man from a world barely known to us." Jack felt the sting of their words. He had expected doubt, but the disdain in their voices cut deeper than he admitted. Still he kept quiet, letting Lyra defend him. Lyra stood tall, her eyes bright with fire. "Strength is not only in tradition. Strength is in courage and loyalty and love. Jack has all of these. He saved me when none of you were there, and now he stands with me against your judgment." The room fell silent. Even the youngest siblings, who usually whispered and giggled, were quiet. Lord Veyron's gaze turned cold. "Your feelings cloud your judgment, Lyra. This human may have saved you once, but can he live within our world? Can he stand the storms of politics, of family duty, of legacy? Or will he crumble under the weight?" Jack finally spoke, his voice steady though his heart raced. "I may not understand all your customs yet, but I do understand what it means to stand by someone you love. On Earth, where I come from, life is never easy. You fight to survive every day with what little you have. We may not have your technology, but we have something just as important: resilience. I will not crumble, not while Lyra needs me." Veyron's eyes narrowed, but for a moment there was silence again. The Council of Family exchanged glances. Some were moved, others unconvinced. That night, after the council dispersed, Lyra and Jack walked the quiet corridors of the palace. The glow of the alien lamps reflected on the smooth crystal walls. "I'm sorry you had to hear that," Lyra whispered, her voice low. Jack shook his head. "I knew not everyone would accept me. Back home I've had to prove myself more times than I can count. This is no different." Lyra stopped and looked at him, her eyes soft. "It is different. Here tradition is like stone. My uncle and cousin see you as a crack in that stone. They fear what it means if I choose you over what is expected." Jack sighed, leaning against the wall. "I don't want to break your family apart, Lyra. I just want to stand by you. If they can't see that, then maybe it'll take more time." She smiled faintly. "Time and more courage. You've shown them your skill. Now you must show them your heart." The next day, tension thickened. Lyra's uncle spread whispers among the elders, pushing for a formal arrangement with a noble suitor from another family. Saren openly mocked Jack in small ways, challenging him with questions about human weakness and making comparisons between Earth and their advanced world. Jack, though tempted to snap back, stayed calm. Instead, he used humor and honesty. When asked how humans survived without great technology, he told stories of farmers who tilled land with their bare hands, of engineers who built machines out of scraps, and of explorers who crossed oceans without knowing what lay beyond. His words carried simple power, and even those who doubted him listened in silence. In private, Jack and Lyra grew closer. She taught him the subtleties of her world, the meanings behind gestures, the hidden layers of alien politics, the traditions that bound her people together. Jack, in turn, shared with her the warmth of human customs, campfire tales, laughter in the face of hardship and the strange comfort of human music. One evening, sitting beneath the alien stars, Lyra asked, "Do you ever regret coming here, Jack? To my world where everything is against you?" Jack chuckled softly. "Regret? No, it's not easy, but nothing worth doing ever is. Back home I live day to day. Here I feel like I'm fighting for something bigger. For you, for our child, for a future. That's worth any fight." Her heart swelled at his words. She leaned against him, and for a moment the world around them faded. But peace never lasted long in the palace. The division in the family deepened. Lyra's mother and father remained cautious but hopeful, while Veyron and Saren grew more vocal, warning of disgrace if Lyra continued her path. The younger siblings were torn, some secretly admiring Jack, others afraid of defying tradition. The tension came to a breaking point during a family gathering. Veyron stood, his voice loud and commanding. "This must end. The human does not belong here. He cannot carry the name of our family. Lyra must choose her people over this outsider." All eyes turned to Lyra. The room grew silent. Jack felt his chest tighten, but he met her gaze. He wanted to speak, to defend himself, but he knew this was her moment. Lyra's voice rang out, clear and strong. "I will not abandon Jack. He is my choice, my partner, and the father of my child. I will not trade love for empty tradition. If you cannot see his worth, then you are blind to what truly matters." Gasps filled the room. Veyron's face darkened, but Lyra's mother raised her hand. "Enough. We will not tear this family apart tonight. The matter will rest for now." Jack exhaled slowly, relief flooding through him, but he knew this was only a pause. The storm of conflict was far from over. Later, in the quiet of their chambers, Jack whispered, "You were brave today." Lyra smiled. "We both were, and we will need to be braver still. The hardest tests are yet to come." Jack held her close, his resolve hardening. Whatever lay ahead, he would face it with her. Humans were survivors, and he would prove it not just with skill but with heart. The palace was never quiet for long. The arguments within Lyra's family had barely cooled when a new danger rose on the horizon. Whispers spread through the corridors. Political rivals had learned of Lyra's pregnancy with Jack, and they were preparing to use it against her family. The news came one morning, carried by a messenger with pale, frightened eyes. "A rival house has begun spreading word across the city," he said breathlessly. "They say your family has been shamed by allowing a human to enter your halls. They demand answers, and they will not stop until you are weakened." Lyra's father, stern and commanding, slammed his hand against the council table. "Fools," he growled. "They will twist anything into a weapon. But this could bring disgrace if not handled wisely." Lyra's uncle Veyron smirked, seizing the chance. "I warned you all," he said. "This human is a danger not just to tradition but to our family's very standing. Now our enemies circle like predators." Jack stood in the corner listening quietly. His fist clenched at Veyron's words, but he said nothing. He had learned that sometimes silence carried more weight than argument. Still inside, his heart burned. "I didn't come here to harm Lyra or her family. I came here to protect her." That night, the family gathered in the main hall to discuss what to do. Tension filled the air. Some spoke of hiding the truth, others of forcing Lyra into retreat. Veyron loudly suggested separating her from Jack entirely. Jack finally stepped forward. "Running won't help," he said firmly. "On Earth, when you're hunted, you can't just hide forever. You have to face the threat head on." "Let me help," Veyron scoffed. "Help? What could you possibly do against seasoned rivals who know every trick of politics?" Jack smiled faintly. "Maybe I don't know your politics, but I know how to deal with threats. Sometimes you don't fight with power. You fight with wit, speed, and courage." Lyra's mother leaned forward, curious. "And what do you propose, human?" Jack thought quickly. He remembered the mining colony where he had met Lyra, the chaos of collapsing tunnels, the way he had improvised tools to save them both. Humans, he knew, didn't need perfect plans. They just needed clever ones. "Your rivals want to humiliate you," Jack said. "So instead, let's turn it around. Show the people that I'm not a weakness but a strength. Let them see what humans can do." It was a bold idea. The family hesitated. But Lyra, her eyes shining, nodded. "I believe in him," she said. "If Jack says he can help, then we should let him." And so the next day the test came sooner than anyone expected. The rival house sent envoys into the city square, announcing that the noble family had betrayed tradition by welcoming a savage human. Crowds gathered, murmuring, curious and doubtful. Jack stood beside Lyra, the eyes of the city burning into him. He felt the weight of their judgment, heavier even than the stares of her family. But instead of shrinking, he stepped forward. "I am human," Jack said loudly, his voice carrying across the square. "And maybe you see me as savage, but let me show you what that really means. To us, savage means we fight when the odds are against us. We survive." The morning after Jack's daring act in the square, the palace felt alive with whispers. Servants carried food but paused to gossip about the human who had stopped the war machine. Guards at the gate exchanged nods of respect when Jack walked past, though some still looked at him with suspicion. Lyra noticed the change. She walked beside him, her arm brushing his, her eyes filled with quiet pride. "They are starting to see you," she said softly. "Not just as a stranger, but as someone strong." Jack smiled faintly. "Respect is one thing. Acceptance is another. I know some of your family still wants me gone." He was right. That afternoon, the summons came. The Grand Council, elders of the family and allied houses, demanded Jack and Lyra stand before them. The great chamber was vast, with high arches and a ceiling painted with the history of their people. Every elder sat in a tall chair, their faces serious and cold. Lyra squeezed Jack's hand before stepping forward. Her voice was steady, though her heart raced. "You called us here. Say what must be said." The eldest counselor, a woman with silver markings across her brow, spoke first. "Your bond with this human has caused division. Yesterday he displayed great courage, yes, but courage alone does not erase doubt. We must decide, does he belong here or is he a danger to us all?" The chamber filled with murmurs. Jack stepped forward, refusing to bow his head. "I never asked to belong to your council," he said. "I only wanted to stand beside Lyra. I'll protect her with my life. If that makes me a danger, then maybe you should fear what you don't understand." Gasps echoed through the room at his boldness. Lyra's uncle Varen seized the moment, rising to his feet. "There, you see? He challenges us in our own hall. He is reckless, a savage filled with pride. Do you truly want such a man tied to our family forever?" But before anyone could answer, Lyra's mother stood. Her voice was calm but firm. "Do not twist his words, Varen. I saw what he did yesterday. None of our own people dared to face that machine. He did, and he triumphed. That is not savagery. That is bravery." Lyra's father, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. "Words will not solve this. We must test him properly, not in chaos, not in chance, but in a trial of honor." The council leaned forward. "A trial?" one elder asked. "Yes," the father continued. "Let the human prove himself in the way of our ancestors. Let him face a challenge designed to measure heart, skill, and loyalty. If he succeeds, he has earned his place beside Lyra. If he fails—" His eyes softened, but only slightly. "Then he will leave." The chamber buzzed with agreement. Even those who doubted Jack could not deny the fairness of such a test. Lyra's eyes widened with worry. "Father, you cannot. He has already risked his life once." Her father looked at her gently but firmly. "If his love is true, he will endure. This is the way." Jack stepped forward before Lyra could protest further. His voice was steady. "I accept." That night word spread across the city. The human would face the trial of valor, a right few dared to attempt. Some whispered he would not survive. Others waited with excitement, eager to see if he truly carried the strength that had been spoken of. When the morning came, the trial ground was filled with spectators. The arena was carved into the earth itself, with high stone walls and open skies above. Strange devices hummed at the edges, ready to unleash tests both physical and mental. Jack stood in the center, his shirt plain, his eyes sharp. Lyra watched from the platform, her heart pounding. She wanted to run to him to stop all of this, but she knew the choice was his. The first challenge began. A wall of shifting platforms rose before him, moving and tilting with every step. Sharp beams of light cut across them, threatening to knock him down. The alien youths who had trained for years often struggled here. Jack took a deep breath. On Earth, he had climbed ruined towers, crawled through collapsed mines, and leapt between broken ledges. His body remembered those instincts. He moved quickly, using timing and momentum. The crowd gasped as he rolled, leapt and clung to the shifting platforms, reaching the other side with a triumphant grin. "Impossible," one elder whispered. The second challenge was strength. A heavy stone carved with glowing runes sat in the center. It was said to test the will of the challenger, growing heavier with each attempt. Many had failed here. Jack approached it calmly. He remembered the mines again, carrying broken beams on his back to save workers trapped inside. He thought of Lyra, her trust, her hope. He bent down, gripped the stone, and with a growl of effort lifted it high above his head. The crowd roared in shock. Lyra covered her mouth, her eyes wet with pride. The third challenge was cunning. A puzzle of shifting lights and symbols appeared on the arena wall, a test of quick thought. Jack frowned. This was alien to him, completely unfamiliar. The rival smirked, certain he would fail. But Jack remembered his words. Humans adapt. He studied the symbols, watching how they moved, how they repeated. Slowly he noticed patterns. He tested one sequence, then another, until the lights aligned with a chime of success. The arena echoed with stunned silence. Even the elders who doubted him leaned forward, impressed despite themselves. At last came the final trial, loyalty. A holographic image appeared, Lyra trapped behind fire and falling debris. The test was clear: abandon the challenge to save her image or ignore it to finish the trial. The crowd watched closely, whispering. What would he choose? Jack didn't hesitate. He rushed to the hologram, tearing through the burning illusion, shielding the false Lyra with his body, lifting beams with straining muscles. When the fire died and the smoke cleared, the trial overseers nodded. The test was passed, not because he had chosen victory, but because he had chosen love. The arena erupted in cheers. Even those who had doubted could not deny it anymore. Jack was no savage intruder. He was human, and that meant he was a fighter, a thinker, a protector. Lyra ran to him as the trial ended, throwing her arms around him despite the eyes of the council. You did it, she whispered. You proved them all wrong. Jack held her close, his chest rising and falling with exhaustion. I didn't do it for them, he said softly. I did it for you. The council elders rose. The silver-marked leader raised her hand for silence. The trial is complete. The human has shown courage, strength, and loyalty. By our laws, he has earned the right to stand beside Lyra. Even Lyra's father nodded, though his expression was still stern. You have my respect, Jack of Earth. But respect is only the beginning. You must prove every day that your heart is as strong as it was today. Jack met his gaze without fear. I will. But in the shadows of the arena, Varen and Saren stood apart, their faces dark with anger. The trial had not ended their schemes. It had only hardened their resolve. For now, Jack had won acceptance. But the greatest test still lay ahead. The night after Jack's victory in the trial should have been peaceful. The city celebrated, fires burned in honor, and music filled the streets. Everywhere people spoke of the human who had surprised them all. Jack's name spread quickly. Some called him the savage savior, while others whispered he might change the future of their people forever. But inside the palace, danger moved quietly. Varen and Saren sat in a dark chamber, their voices low but sharp. We have lost the council, Saren said bitterly. They see him as strong now. Even the people praise him. Varen's eyes narrowed. Then the council is blind. If they cannot see the danger, we must show them. The human is no ally, he is a seed of chaos. Tonight we end this before it grows. Their plan was set. When the palace slept, they would strike, not only at Jack but at Lyra too. If both were removed, their family would have no choice but to forget this foolish union. Jack lay awake in his chamber, staring at the carved ceiling above him. The trial had proved his worth, but he knew this was only the beginning. Every day would bring new tests. Still, when he turned his head and saw Lyra asleep beside him, her breathing steady, his heart felt calm. I'll protect her, he thought. No matter what comes, that promise was tested sooner than he expected. A sudden crash echoed through the palace halls. Jack's instincts sharpened at once. He sat up listening. Shouts rang out in the distance, guards clashing, weapons humming. Lyra woke, her eyes wide with fear. What's happening? She whispered. Jack grabbed the staff weapon given to him after the trial. Trouble, he said. Stay behind me. The door to their chamber burst open. Armed figures rushed in, their faces hidden beneath masks. Their movements were precise, practiced. Assassins. Jack reacted without hesitation. He swung the staff, knocking one attacker back. Another lunged, but Jack caught his arm, twisted, and threw him to the ground. His body moved with human instinct, honed by years of surviving dangers Earth had thrown at him. But there were too many. The assassins pressed forward, their blades glowing in the dim light. Lyra cried out as one nearly reached her, but Jack blocked the strike, pushing the enemy back. His arms burned with effort, yet his determination burned hotter. "Run!" he shouted to Lyra. "No!" she refused, grabbing a fallen blade. "We face this together." Her courage sparked something fierce in Jack. Together they fought their way into the hall. The palace shook with chaos, guards clashing against attackers, flames rising from banners set ablaze. Through the smoke, Jack spotted them. Veyron and Saren standing at the far end, watching with cold satisfaction. "This was you," Jack growled. Pointing his weapon toward them, Veyron sneered. "You should